Hey, Hocus Pocus fans, thanks for being here. Hit that like and subscribe button if you would. Either way, I'm glad you're here. I was not sure if I was going to make a review about this movie, but I decided to go ahead and do it because number one, I am happy to say that I really enjoyed the movie. Was it perfect? No. But again, this follows the line with I seem to do better with things when I stay away from trailers and I just, I don't have a lot of expectations because in truth, I mean, I knew that Allison and Max and Danny, those original characters were not coming back. Obviously, Binks wouldn't be able to come back. I knew these other characters would not be there. So I did know that. And but I still didn't know exactly what to expect. Now, when I saw the first trailer that came out, I was excited. I really liked what I saw. Then when I saw the second trailer, I was like, oh, I wish I hadn't watched that. So I was like, nope, no more. So I did go ahead and just stay away from trailers, and I kept my expectations at a manageable level. And I'm happy to say I really did like the movie. I actually ended up watching it 3 times this past weekend, and I tend to like it more. And I'm going to say the Witch's Back song definitely got stuck in my head. Did anybody else have this happen? So I wanted to actually get into some of the points that I've seen other people not be so thrilled about online, and I kind of wanted to address them with a different angle. So yes, there's spoilers on this. If you haven't watched it, come back when you have, but if you haven't and you're interested and you might have some opinions on what I'm gonna say, because I have been following the Hocus Pocus boards online and I've seen a lot of things, a lot of people saying several of the same things. So I wanted to go ahead and give my thoughts on this. I saw one person point out that, oh, the book is from the devil. Why would they say it's from their mother witch that they found in the woods? Well, I'm going to have a counterpoint on this. Was it from the devil? Because I always thought that that was just a story that Allison's mother told at the museum to kind of just add to the scary factor, the spooky factor of the story. So I never really thought that the book was from the devil. So someone also said, oh, well, I just don't believe that a kid would be wandering around all night on Halloween. Well, I mean, first off, stranger things have happened. And we also have to remember, most of the parents in town were under the spell, dancing till they die at the party. So it's not unreasonable to think that a kid would be wandering around all night. And not to mention, all the other kids were like in a trance going to the witch's house under Sarah's spell. So I could see some kids, wake up and be like, where am I? And start wandering around to try to get home. So, I mean, it's not entirely outside of the realm of reason to believe that a kid would be wandering around at the crack of dawn when all that was going on. Okay, so another thing I saw was Billy. Why was Billy just not really asleep? Why was he? I thought the spell broke on the last movie. Now, I'm going to give you that. I will agree that that one is a little far-fetched, but it's not completely improbable either. I think Billy, we saw the spell break with Binks and he was able to move on. Now, maybe there would be some issue that Billy couldn't move on because the witches still had the ability to come back, maybe? I don't know, but that could be connected to Binks as well, but Binks moved on. Maybe it's like a moving on type thing because some ghosts get caught, some move on. I don't know, but it wasn't completely improbable. It might have been just let's suspend our disbelief for a moment. I saw another one mention, oh, well, if they had the big power spell, why didn't they use it? Well, she made the promise not to use it, and clearly Book didn't want them to use it. It wasn't something that they necessarily could use either, which goes into my next point, that they wouldn't have needed to use the youth spell until they were older. And let's be real, anything that you get good at, it takes a long time usually to cultivate, especially in the realm of magic. So it would have taken them, I feel like, years to get to the level to be able to really use their magic when they were later in their life. So another one was, oh, the book has feelings and can cry. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I always thought that the book did have a lot of personality, even in the first one. I think they just focused on it more in this movie. And, I can understand, like, if you've never heard it, because, like, in modeling, there's a thing they say, oh, smile with your eyes. That's a real thing. So I understood the reference when she was like, oh, he's smiling. Like, I got that. Like, but I could see how that might not make sense to some people. Okay, so as I'm sure a lot of people have noticed, there was a lot of nods to the original movie. And someone pointed out, that was so stupid having Winnie fly past the window and see the guys watching the first movie. And I'm like, I thought that was kind of weird at first, but then I got to thinking about it and I said, no, that's kind of like a fourth wall break. Not to mention a nod to the original, much like the couple that was in line that was supposed to be holding the mayor's place in line for the candy apples, and the couple was dressed like Satan and the wife from the first movie. Another is a kind of fourth wall break, a nod to the first movie, really. Okay, so people seem to be not believing about the second black flame candle. Well, if we look, there was apparently plenty of wax left over from the first black candle that burned down in the first movie. And Gilbert does say that the book showed him how to do it, how to make a new candle, and he said it wasn't pretty. Those were his words in the movie. So I don't know. I feel like Gilbert wasn't as innocent as he seemed. I think there was an undertone of darkness throughout the movie that was definitely darker than the first movie. But considering the subject matter of them coming back and wanting that revenge, I think that fit, because it wasn't like overkill with it. It was more of just like an undertone of it, I think. But Gilbert also had an obsession, clearly since he was a kid, to want to bring them back. So, and usually when you're focused and you have tunnel vision like that, you will do things that you probably wouldn't normally do. Now, when he said it wasn't pretty, that could refer to, oh, it was just messy, or it was really gross. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a wide spectrum of reasons why he could say it wasn't pretty, because everybody has different levels of what's not pretty too. So I don't know. I think that the guy who played Gilbert did a really good job. And I think that he played the role really well, and it keeps me guessing on, like, okay, what did you mean by that? But it definitely does show the book showed him how to make another one. Another interesting point that I saw is that someone was saying, the thing that Winnie cared about most was her power. She didn't care about her sisters. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's entirely true. I mean, think back to the first movie when she shared Emily's life force with her sisters instead of taking it for herself, just for herself. I think for all of Winnie's bluster and bluff, so to speak, I think she absolutely loves her sisters, which to me is illustrated in the beginning of the second movie when they try to take her sisters away and she was terrified, So I think it also has to come to the point where, yes, they blew up in the first one, but they all went together. This movie showed them going and Winnie staying, and that realization hitting her that, oh, my sisters are not here, and they have never not been there before with her. So I think in that moment, it's like thinking that someone's gone and the reality of someone being gone are two very different things. They're two very different experiences. So I think the movie did it really well in the sense that she had that kind of aha moment where it's like, oh, they're not here. This has never happened before. What am I feeling? Like, she wasn't expecting her most important thing to be her sisters, which you have to remember, the book also said it will take what you love. and obviously her sisters is what she loved. It was all very, very full circle. I felt like this movie was a goodbye letter to those of us who grew up on this movie. And you know, it was just, it made me emotional, just like the end of the first movie. Again, very full circle. I will say on the first run, when they immediately come back and start singing, I thought that was a little weird. But I thought that the scene was just a tad long. But then you see, because the girls are even, but I like that kind of where the girls are running and they're like, who are they singing for? Because that to me was kind of a moment where I'm pretty sure a lot of audience members who were watching this were thinking the same thing. Like, who are they singing for? So they voiced it, and then here comes Sarah, you. Like, I like the way they scared her, and she pops up and says, you, we're performing for you. So like, once I like rewatched it again, it seemed like to make more sense at that point. Because I was like, at first it was a little odd, but now it does make sense. And I just want to say, bravo to Tony Hales playing the mayor. I think he's always funny. I loved him originally. He's been in so many things, but what I know him most from is from Arrested Development. I love that show. It's on Netflix if anybody's interested. But yeah, I thought he did really well with this role, and I don't know how many other actors could have made this so believable. I've heard some people say the other adults in the movie were annoying, but I thought they were great. I thought it was really funny, and it all really came together. It really worked well. And speaking of, I just have to give props to the young actresses that played the young Sanderson sisters, especially Winifred. Oh my God, that girl was down pat, from the facial expressions to the mannerisms, the body language, the voice. She embodied a young Winifred, and I just have to give so many props to all three of them, really. But I would be so down for a Disney series with more backstory, with those same actresses, with more backstory of the young Sanderson sisters, as well as the new coven. I think that would be a lot of fun. Now, I will say, a lot of people mentioned the house was in the middle of the woods. It wasn't in the middle of town, which, okay, I will give you that. But if you go back to the first movie, you see that it is on this big piece of property and it's walled off, and I totally get that. But let's remember, Salem, I've been to Salem. It's a pretty small town. And if you see, they're able to walk there pretty easily in the original movie. So let's just say this is another, like, with the way, you know, people buy land and the developers in our world today, I could totally see that they would have, like, built up that area, not wasted that land, and just kept it as a historical place, and then Gilbert bought it as his magic shop. So it's a little suspension of disbelief, but if you think about it, with the way developers are now, I could totally see them building up around it, honestly. But speaking of the house, one thing I've always thought was kind of funny about the original movie is how I always thought, how did this house not get torn down, burned? How did they not, like, just demolish it? You know, how is it still standing 300 years later if they were so fearful of this place? But then again, the fear could have stopped them from doing it too. But that was just a random thought I always had. And again, I understand why people wanted to see Allison and Danny and Max and maybe have their kids do the same kind of gambit from the first movie, the same kind of story, but I don't think the same kind of story would have been as interesting. And truthfully, if we think about this in real life, okay, if you went through such a literal traumatic experience in your youth, I think there might be some delayed PTSD. And as you get older, you really realize what happened, and it would be a little traumatic unless you're completely blocking it out. So I could honestly see these kids growing up and be like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to college on the other side of the country. I don't want to come back here. Like, I could see that being more the reason that they wouldn't be in the second movie, wouldn't still be in Salem, etc., etc. But that's just my take on it. And again, I mean, we have to remember, this is not really about Allison and Danny and Max. This is about the Sanderson sisters. So it does make sense that this went the way it did, because it is, again, it's like a goodbye letter to us OG Sanderson sister Hocus Pocus fans. Okay, so everybody's talking about Sarah Jessica Parker's eyebrows. Yes, I noticed them. How could you not? But I'm going to be honest, I wasn't as absorbed in her eyebrows. I was absorbed in the amazing performances that Beth and Sarah and Kathy all performed in this movie. Bravo. Although there is one thing I did notice about Sarah, she showed her legs way more when she was riding the broom in this movie than she ever did in the first movie. I thought that was kind of interesting. Did anybody else notice this? Okay, so going back to the original movie, did anybody ever wonder, like, because when we start the movie and we come into the classroom and the teacher's saying, poor Thackeray Binks, no one ever knew what ever happened to him. So I always thought, well, then how do you know this story? How are you telling this 300 years later if no one ever knew? Just a weird sidebar, you know? I've also heard that the big moon in the sacred woods was very soundstage. But, you know, I kind of liked it. Yes, it's obviously a stage. They tried to rebuild the woods. I get it. But it's just one of those, like, just go with it. I kind of liked it. It gave a really kind of spooky effect. So yeah, I don't think the stuffed spider would have worked for the spell and the petrified spider. I thought that was kind of funny and goofy, to be honest. I'm not really sure why they made that choice, other than just kind of being kooky and funny. Okay, so my last point on this, I've heard a lot of people say that the second one doesn't hold the same magic that the first one did. And I mean, partly that could be considered nostalgia, while the other part, I think I know why. Because again, I have been to Salem, and I'm going to tell you, it's an awesome, and for lack of for lack of a better wording, I'm going to use the cliche that it's very magical feeling there. It has a really cool vibe with the very unique, with the history there. It's impossible for you not to have that kind of energy in Salem. And I can totally believe, now that I've been there, I mean, I always felt it on the first movie, but now that I've been there, I think I know why that magical feeling is there on the first movie and not so much on the second, because the second movie they did not film in Salem. They did a great job at trying to recreate it all, but that underlying feeling is certainly not there, because when you are in Salem, you get that vibe, and I do strongly believe that would come through, and it did come through on the first movie. It's just you can't recreate that energy. So I can absolutely agree that people don't feel that magic per se, because they weren't in Salem and you just can't recreate that energy. But all in all, I mean, I think with what they did and where they filmed, I think they did a great job all in all. And I'm happy to say that I liked it. I was not expecting to like it, let alone as much as I do. Again, I think it was a goodbye letter. I think it was great. I mean, all around, I mean, I enjoyed it. It makes me smile. It makes me laugh. It makes me happy. I know there's a lot of people out there that did not enjoy it. All I can say is, the people who only got through 10 or 20 minutes of it, I hope you'll give it another chance, because I'm going to tell you this. There have been things, reboots specifically, like with the Gilmore Girls reboot. I did not like it the first time, but I'm going to tell you, after I went back and rewatched it, things made sense, and I actually don't hate it now. So it's like, it's just interesting at different levels and where your mind's at, like to what hits you differently, how it affects you, how you see it. And I say, you know, again, for me, it's about dropping the expectations and taking it for what it is. And I've really enjoyed it, and after watching it a few times, I still really like it. So again, I was super shocked that I could even say that, but I say maybe try to give it another chance, because they really did a pretty amazing job with what they had. So I mean, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.